All your life, you've been told, be nice, be sweet, be quiet, don't upset anyone. But let me ask you a question today. While you were being nice to everyone, who was being nice to you? While you were carrying the burden of pleasing the world, who was carrying the burden of your happiness? My dear friends, being kind is divine, but being a doormat is not. God never created us to shrink ourselves just so others can shine. He gave us a soul filled with dignity, strength, and wisdom. And when you stop being just the nice girl and start being the real you, everything begins to change. Today, let's discover how to rise with respect, how to honor your own worth, and how to walk with the strength that the divine has already placed within you. Kindness is often mistaken for weakness, but in truth, it is one of the greatest strengths God has blessed us with. To be kind in a world that can be cruel, to smile when life feels heavy, to extend a hand when your own arms are tired, that is not weakness, that is strength clothed in gentleness. But here lies the confusion. Many people assume that being kind means allowing others to walk over you, to misuse your patience, to silence your voice. And this is where the journey of understanding begins. Real kindness is not about diminishing yourself, it is about rising with dignity while still choosing compassion. Think about a candle. When it burns, it gives light to everyone around, but the candle never apologizes for glowing. The candle does not allow the wind to blow it out without a fight. It bends, but it does not surrender its flame so easily. That is how kindness must be in our lives. You can shine for others, but you must also protect your flame. Because if you burn out, there is no light left for you or for anyone else. In daily life, many of us confuse politeness with submission. For example, a young woman at work who is always the one to stay late, always the one to say yes to extra tasks, always the one to carry everyone's load, while her own dreams sit on the shelf. At first, people call her so nice, so helpful, so sweet. But over time, they stop respecting her sacrifices because she never draws a line. Her kindness turns into an expectation, and her presence becomes invisible. This is the danger of misunderstood kindness. It drains you until nothing is left. Now imagine the same woman deciding one day to change. She still smiles, she still helps when she can, but she starts saying, "I won't be able to take this on today." She begins protecting her evenings to rest, to spend time with her family, or to pursue her passions. At first, people may be shocked. They may even call her selfish. But slowly, something shifts. They start realizing she values herself. They begin respecting her boundaries. And most importantly, she begins to feel lighter, freer, and stronger. This is the transformation from kindness as weakness to kindness as power. True kindness does not require you to harm yourself to help others. Look at nature for guidance. The tree gives shade, fruit, and shelter, but it still stands firm with deep roots. If a storm comes, it bends, but it does not uproot itself to please the wind. That is how our kindness should be, deeply rooted in self-respect. You can bend, you can give, but you must not destroy yourself for the sake of appearing nice. In relationships too, this lesson is vital. Many times, women stay silent to avoid conflict. They forgive and forgive, even when their hearts are breaking, because they are told, a nice girl doesn't argue. But what is the result? Their silence becomes approval. Their patience becomes permission for others to disrespect them again and again. But when that same woman finds her voice and says, "I love you, but I will not allow this behavior," her kindness transforms. She is no longer the nice girl. She becomes the strong girl. She still cares, but she cares about herself too. We must remember that God never asked us to sacrifice our dignity in the name of kindness. He asked us to live with compassion, balance, and wisdom. Compassion means helping others, yes, but balance means helping yourself too. And wisdom means knowing the difference between serving others and serving their selfishness. Imagine a river. It flows endlessly, quenching the thirst of villages, giving life to fields, carrying boats across its waters. The river is generous, yet it has boundaries. It does not allow itself to be drained dry. When the river overflows without boundaries, it causes floods. When it runs too low, it becomes barren. Only with balance does it serve its purpose. In the same way, your kindness must flow with boundaries. Without them, kindness loses its beauty and becomes burden. So, the next time someone mistakes your kindness for weakness, remember this truth. You are not here to be endlessly drained. You are here to share your light without losing it. Say yes when your heart allows. Say no when your soul needs peace. Smile without fear, but do not smile through disrespect. Walk with compassion, but do not walk away from yourself. Kindness is not about being silent. It is about speaking with love. It is not about always giving. It is about giving wisely. And it is not about ignoring your worth. It is about living it fully. When you truly understand this, your kindness will no longer be a burden. It will become your strength, your grace, your power. That is the moment when people will no longer just call you a nice girl. They will call you a woman of wisdom, a woman of balance, a woman who shines without burning out. And in living this way, you will not only honor yourself, you will honor God, who created you not to be weak, but to be strong with a soft heart and a steady soul. The trap of people pleasing is one of the deepest prisons many of us create for ourselves without even realizing it. From childhood, we are often taught, don't upset anyone, keep everyone happy, be the good girl, be agreeable. Slowly, those words shape our behavior. We begin to measure our worth not by our inner truth, but by the smiles and approval of others. And while seeking harmony is a noble quality, when it turns into a desperate attempt to please everyone, it drains our soul and steals our authenticity. Think about this, no matter how much you try, you cannot please everyone. If you wear red, someone will say blue looks better. If you speak up, someone will call you arrogant. If you stay quiet, someone will call you weak. If you sacrifice, they will take more. If you stop sacrificing, they will accuse you of being selfish. The truth is simple, no matter what you do, someone will always be dissatisfied. So why should you sacrifice your peace just to meet their endless demands? Daily life gives us countless examples. Imagine a young student who agrees to help every friend with their assignments. Even when she has her own deadlines, she does this because she fears being disliked or being called rude if she says no. At first, people thank her. But over time, they stop valuing her effort. They begin to expect it. And she is left exhausted, struggling with her own work, her health, her joy. This is the silent tax of people pleasing. You pay the price while others keep collecting benefits. Or consider a woman in her family who is always the one to compromise. She eats last after serving everyone. She gives up her dreams to keep peace in the house. She says yes, even when her heart says no. The world applauds her as the nice girl, the good daughter, the perfect wife, the selfless mother. But deep inside, her soul cries. Her joy is replaced by resentment. Her spirit is heavy with unspoken pain. This is the hidden suffering behind the mask of people-pleasing. People-pleasing is dangerous because it looks like kindness, but it is rooted in fear. fear of rejection, fear of being unloved, fear of being alone. But can love built on fear ever be real? If people only like you because you always say yes, do they love you, or do they just love your compliance? This is a hard question, but it is one that liberates you when you answer it honestly. Look at nature. It never tries to please anyone. The sun does not rise late because someone wanted to sleep longer. The rain does not stop because someone's wedding is outside. The tree does not shrink because someone thinks it is too tall. Nature serves with balance, but it does not bend its laws for approval. In the same way, we must learn to live with integrity, not dependency on other people's acceptance. When you stop people pleasing, something amazing happens. The people who truly value you remain, and those who only wanted to use you fade away. At first, it may feel lonely. You may face criticism, gossip, or even anger. But slowly, you realize that this space you have created is filled with freedom. Freedom to rest, freedom to dream, freedom to live in alignment with your values. The divine did not send you here to be everyone's servant. He sent you to live as His creation with dignity. An example that touches many lives is in the workplace. A woman constantly agrees to overtime, extra projects, covering for others, all in the hope of being recognized. But recognition never comes. Instead, the more she gives, the more they take. But when she starts saying, "I cannot stay late today, I have commitments," something shifts. At first, colleagues resist. But over time, they start respecting her. And most importantly, she starts respecting herself. She realizes that her worth is not measured by how much she sacrifices, but by how much she honors her boundaries while still working with sincerity. Another daily example is friendships. Many people keep friends who only call when they need something. They fear saying no because they don't want to lose the friendship. But real friends don't disappear when you say no. In fact, your boundaries filter your circle. Those who love you for who you are will stay. Those who loved only your convenience will vanish. And that is not a loss, it is a blessing. The trap of people pleasing is heavy, but breaking free is liberating. You begin to see that your worth is not a currency to be traded for approval. Your worth is God-given, it is already complete. It cannot be increased by someone's praise or decreased by someone's criticism. When you understand this, you stop chasing approval like a beggar and start walking like a queen, graceful, confident, and free. Yes, be kind. Yes, be compassionate, but not at the cost of your own soul. Say yes when your heart agrees, and have the courage to say no when your spirit needs peace. The world may not clap for your boundaries, but your heart will. And a peaceful heart is worth more than 100 hollow praises. So, remember this, people. Pleasing is a trap that steals your joy, but authenticity is the path that gives it back. When you stop trying to be liked by everyone, you discover the greatest truth. You don't need everyone, you just need yourself, your peace, and your connection with God. That is enough. That has always been enough. Boundaries are often misunderstood. Many people think boundaries mean pushing others away, becoming cold, or building walls. But in reality, boundaries are not about separation, they are about protection. They are not walls that shut people out, but doors that teach others how to enter your life with respect. Boundaries are the invisible lines that define where your responsibility ends and another person's responsibility begins. Without them, you live in exhaustion, but with them, you live in peace. Every aspect of life demonstrates the importance of boundaries. Consider the ocean. It is vast, powerful, and beautiful, but if it did not have a shoreline to contain it, it would overflow and drawn everything in its path. The shore does not weaken the ocean, it gives the ocean shape and purpose. Similarly, in our lives, boundaries do not weaken us, they give us strength, clarity, and balance. Without boundaries, kindness becomes burden, relationships become toxic, and self-respect begins to fade. Think about a young professional who never says no at work. Every time a colleague asks her to take on an extra task, she agrees. Every time her boss extends the deadlines, she sacrifices her weekends. At first, she feels proud of being helpful. But slowly, she realizes her energy is gone. Her health is suffering. Her relationships outside of work are neglected. And her personal dreams are forgotten. Why? Because she had no boundaries. She kept pouring from her cup until it was empty. Boundaries would not have made her less kind or less professional. They would have made her sustainable, balanced, and respected. In families too, boundaries are essential. Imagine a daughter who is always expected to obey, never to question, never to voice her feelings. Out of respect, she stays quiet. But over time, silence turns into suffocation. She begins to live not her own life, but the life others have chosen for her. Now imagine her slowly learning to say, I respect you, but I also have my own dreams. At first, people resist because they were comfortable with her silence. But eventually, they begin to see her strength. Her boundary is not rebellion, it is self-respect. And true love, whether in a family or in friendships, learns to respect boundaries. Boundaries are not about selfishness, they are about balance. When you say no to something that drains you, you are saying yes to something that nourishes you. When you decline to be treated with disrespect, you are affirming your dignity. The world may not always applaud your boundaries, but your soul will, and a soul at peace is more valuable than the temporary approval of others. Look at nature again. Day has a boundary and night has a boundary. If there were no boundary between them, life would collapse into chaos. The sun rises and sets on time. It does not shine 24 hours just to please the earth. It shines in balance, and because of that, life exists. Boundaries, therefore, are a divine law woven into creation. To live without boundaries is to live against the rhythm of life itself. A powerful example lies in friendships. Suppose you have a friend who constantly calls you only when they need help, who never listens to your struggles, who drains your energy but never gives back. If you keep saying yes, thinking that loyalty means self-sacrifice, you are not nurturing a friendship, you are nurturing dependency. But the moment you begin to set boundaries, limiting how much of yourself you give, choosing when to say no, you begin to see who truly values you. A real friend will adjust, respect, and grow with you. A false friend will disappear. Boundaries reveal the truth of relationships. Boundaries also teach self-discipline. When you set boundaries with yourself, like deciding when to rest, when to work, when to disconnect from distractions, you begin to master your own life. Without self-boundaries, you scatter your energy everywhere and achieve nothing. Boundaries, therefore, are not only about protecting yourself from others, but also about guiding yourself toward balance. Many fear that boundaries will make them unkind or unloved, but the opposite is true. Without boundaries, your kindness becomes resentment. You give so much that you eventually feel used, bitter, and empty. But with boundaries, your kindness remains genuine, your love remains pure, because it comes from a place of choice, not compulsion. You are no longer giving out of fear of rejection, but out of the fullness of your heart. The greatest strength of boundaries is that they create respect. When you respect yourself enough to set limits, others learn to respect you too. People treat you according to the rules you teach them. If you teach them that your time, energy, and emotions have no limits, they will take endlessly. But if you show them that your kindness is strong yet guarded, they will adjust their behavior. Respect always begins with self-respect, and boundaries are the language of self-respect. Remember, boundaries do not mean shutting out love. They mean allowing the right kind of love to enter. Boundaries do not mean refusing help. They mean giving help without destroying yourself. Boundaries do not mean walking away from people. They mean walking toward balance. They are not chains. They are the wings that allow you to fly without being weighed down. So, let boundaries be your strength. Let them be the shoreline that gives shape to your ocean, the sunrise and sunset that balance your days, the quiet no that protects your soul, and the gentle yes that keeps your kindness alive. Because when you master the art of boundaries, you don't lose people. You lose only the ones who were never meant to walk with you. And in that space, you gain yourself, your peace, and your connection with the divine, who always intended for you to live with dignity, not depletion. So many of us live our lives apologizing for simply being who we are. We shrink ourselves to fit into boxes society has created. We soften our voices so we don't disturb anyone, and we bend our personalities so we can be liked. But let me remind you of something deeply powerful. You do not need to apologize for existing. You were created by God with intention, with purpose, and with uniqueness that no one else in this world can ever replace. To apologize for existing is to apologize for God's creation, and that is something we must never do. Think about how often you say sorry when you really don't need to. You say sorry for speaking your mind. You say sorry for being too emotional. You say sorry for taking space. You say sorry for asking questions. Sometimes you even say sorry for other people's mistakes just to keep peace. This constant apology becomes a habit, and soon you begin to believe that your very presence is a burden. That is the silent poison of unnecessary apologies. It convinces you that you are too much, when in reality, you are exactly enough. Let's take an everyday example. A young woman in a meeting shares her idea, and immediately she begins with, "Sorry, maybe this isn't important, but..." Do you see what happened? Even before she allowed her truth to be heard, she minimized it. She apologized for daring to take space in the room. Over time, this habit chips away at confidence until she believes her ideas are never good enough. But imagine her standing with her head held high and saying, "I have something valuable to share." No apology, no shrinking, just truth. That small shift is powerful. It tells the world, "I belong here and my voice matters." Or consider relationships. Many women find themselves apologizing constantly, even when they've done nothing wrong. They say sorry for being tired, sorry for needing time, sorry for wanting respect. Sometimes they even say sorry when others mistreat them, as if their existence somehow provoked the wrong. But why must your dignity be accompanied by an apology? True love, true friendship, true respect does not demand that you erase yourself. It welcomes you fully as you are. We must learn from nature. Does the sun apologize for shining too brightly? No, it rises with confidence, giving warmth and light without shrinking. Does the ocean apologize for being too deep? No, it simply exists in its vastness, powerful and unapologetic. Does a flower say sorry for blooming and spreading fragrance? No, it blooms because blooming is its purpose. In the same way, you were not created to shrink and apologize for being alive. You were created to express the fullness of your soul. Sometimes, people will label you for being confident, They may say you are too much or too loud or too proud, but often those words come from those who benefit when you stay small. They feel more comfortable when you are apologetic, when you silence yourself, when you carry guilt that doesn't belong to you. But you must rise above this. You must understand that your existence is not negotiable. It is not something you need to justify. You are here because the divine wanted you here, and that truth alone is enough. Think about a young girl who loves to paint. Every time she shows her art, she says, "It's not that good, sorry." Slowly, she begins to believe her art is worthless, even though it is beautiful. But the day she decides to stop apologizing, to proudly show her colors, her art begins to inspire others. That is the magic of living unapologetically. When you stop hiding, your light becomes a guide for others. Living without apology is not arrogance. It is not about ignoring mistakes. When you genuinely hurt someone, of course, a sincere apology is a sign of humility. But that is very different from apologizing for existing. The first comes from responsibility, the second comes from insecurity. And we must learn to separate the two. When you stop apologizing unnecessarily, you start walking differently. Your shoulders straighten, your voice becomes clearer, your presence feels stronger. People notice this shift. They begin to respect you, not because you demanded it, but because you stopped begging for it with every sorry. Respect begins with you. When you treat yourself as worthy, others are forced to do the same. There is a story in every woman's life of a time she apologized for nothing. Apologized for her body, for her dreams, for her choices. But the moment she realizes she has nothing to apologize for, she is free. Free to laugh loudly without shame. Free to take space without guilt. Free to speak without trembling. And in that freedom, she becomes magnetic, inspiring others to also release the burden of false apologies. Remember this: you are not too much, and you are not too little. You are not here by accident. You are here by divine design. Apologizing for existing is like asking forgiveness for being exactly who God intended you to be. Instead, honor that design. Stand tall, speak boldly, love deeply, and live authentically. Because when you stop apologizing for existing, you begin to live the life you were always meant to live. So the next time you feel the word sorry slipping from your tongue unnecessarily, pause. Ask yourself, do I truly owe an apology, or am I apologizing for existing? If it is the second, swallow that word, replace it with confidence, and move forward unapologetically. Because the world does not need a smaller version of you. The world needs you whole, strong, radiant, and free. And God, who created you in perfection, never once asked you to apologize for being His masterpiece. Respect is one of the deepest desires of the human heart. Every person longs to be valued, acknowledged, and treated with dignity. Yet, the truth many overlook is that respect is not something that others hand to you like a gift. Respect begins within. It starts with how you view yourself, how you treat yourself, and how you set the tone for others to treat you. The way you honor yourself becomes the mirror through which others decide how to honor you. That is why the foundation of respect is always self-respect. When you carry yourself with self-respect, you radiate a quiet strength that people cannot ignore. You no longer beg for validation or cling to approval. Instead, you walk with an energy that says, I know who I am, and I will not allow anyone to treat me as less. This is not arrogance, it is alignment. It is a deep connection to the truth that the divine created you with purpose, and that purpose carries worth that cannot be diminished by anyone's opinion. Daily life gives us countless examples of this. Think of a young woman who is constantly taken for granted by her friends. They call her only when they need something, they dismiss her opinions, and they never consider her feelings. At first, she tolerates it, thinking, if I keep being nice, maybe they'll value me one day. But that day never comes. Why? Because she has not shown them how to respect her. She has allowed their disregard to continue without drawing a line. But the moment she decides, I will no longer invest in relationships where I am invisible, everything changes. She stops chasing them, she withdraws her energy, and she begins to surround herself with people who value her presence. And slowly, those very friends who once ignored her begin to notice her absence. That shift is not because they suddenly became better friends. It is because she began respecting herself enough to step back. Self-respect shows up in the smallest choices. When you choose not to laugh at jokes that humiliate you, you teach people you deserve dignity. When you speak calmly but firmly instead of staying silent in the face of disrespect, you teach people that your voice matters. When you choose to walk away from places, people, or habits that dishonor your values, you teach the world that your soul is sacred. These choices build a reputation, not just in the eyes of others, but in the reflection you see in the mirror. Think of a workplace example. 2 employees join a company. One never speaks up, accepts every unfair demand, and allows her contributions to be overlooked. The other delivers her work with sincerity, but also speaks with confidence, gives her input, and refuses to let her efforts go unnoticed. Over time, one becomes invisible while the other becomes respected. The difference is not in their skill, it is in their self-respect. People tend to respect those who respect themselves enough to be seen and heard. In families too, this lesson is crucial. Many women sacrifice endlessly, hoping their silence will earn them respect. But silence rarely earns respect. It often earns neglect. A mother who teaches her children self-discipline, not by shouting but by standing firm, is respected. A daughter who honors her parents but also honors her individuality earns respect. Respect is not born from submission. It is born from balance. Too much giving without boundaries creates imbalance, and imbalance always erodes respect. Nature teaches us this as well. The mountain stands tall, unmoving, and the world respects it for its strength. The river flows gracefully, but it does not allow itself to be swallowed by the earth. It carves its own path, and the world respects its persistence. The tree bends with the wind, but does not uproot itself to please the storm. Respect is embedded in the balance of strength and grace, firmness and flexibility. Self-respect is the same. You do not need to be harsh to earn it, but you cannot be endlessly soft either. When you respect yourself, people may not always like you, but they will learn to adjust around you. When you do not respect yourself, people may seem to like you because you are easy to control, but deep down, they will not value you. Respect cannot be begged for, it must be commanded by the energy you embody. Living with self-respect also shifts the way you see rejection. Without self-respect, rejection feels like the end of the world. It makes you question your worth. But with self-respect, rejection becomes redirection. You realize that if someone cannot see your value, it is not your job to shrink yourself to be noticed. Instead, you step aside and wait for spaces, people, and opportunities that align with your worth. This is not just about others, it is about you. When you respect yourself, you treat your body with care, you guard your mind against negativity, and you feed your soul with wisdom and truth. You no longer tolerate disrespect from yourself either, whether it comes in the form of self-doubt, destructive habits, or negative self-talk. Respect begins in your thoughts, expands into your choices, and radiates through your presence. Imagine waking up each day with a sense of dignity. You dress not to impress but to express your confidence. You speak not to seek approval but to share truth. You walk into a room not with fear but with the awareness that you belong because God placed you here. That is what self-respect feels like. It is freedom, it is strength, it is peace. And from that place, others cannot help but respect you too. So remember this always. The world does not decide your worth, you do. If you treat yourself as valuable, others will follow your example. If you treat yourself as replaceable, others will too. Respect is not given, it is mirrored. And the first reflection begins in you. Never apologize for demanding respect. Never shrink so that others feel tall. Never trade your dignity for approval. Walk with grace, speak with strength, live with authenticity. Because the moment you honor yourself, the world begins to honor you. And in that, you are not only respecting yourself, you are respecting the divine who created you to be nothing less than worthy. There is a beautiful transformation that happens in life when you stop trying to be the nice girl and instead grow into the wise girl. Being nice often means you live in fear of judgment. You bend to please others. You silence your own needs just to maintain harmony. But wisdom is different. Wisdom teaches you when to give, when to step back, when to say no, and when to walk away. Niceness without wisdom is weakness, but niceness with wisdom becomes power. And this power is not harsh or arrogant. It is graceful, balanced, and deeply respected. Let's look closely at the difference. A nice girl always says yes. She believes that saying yes makes her loved, accepted, and safe. She thinks that by never disappointing others, she will earn their affection. But in reality, people start taking advantage of her. They stop valuing her presence because she has taught them she will always be available, always be accommodating, always put herself last. On the other hand, a wise girl also knows how to say yes, but she says it with awareness. She helps when she truly can, not when it drains her. She serves out of strength, not fear. And when something threatens her peace or dignity, she has the courage to say no without guilt. In daily life, this distinction shows up everywhere. Imagine a friend group where everyone relies on one girl to organize every outing, solve every conflict, and always adjust her schedule. The nice girl will keep doing it even when she is tired because she fears that if she refuses, her friends won't like her. But the wise girl knows her worth. She might say, "I love spending time with you all, but I can't take responsibility every time. Let's share the effort." At first, people may resist. They were used to her endless yes, but slowly they begin to respect her. Her wisdom creates balance, and that balance strengthens the friendship instead of draining her spirit. Wisdom also means recognizing when silence is strength and when silence is surrender. The nice girl stays quiet even when she is being disrespected, thinking it is the polite thing to do. But the wise girl knows that silence in the face of disrespect becomes permission. She speaks calmly, with dignity, not to argue, but to affirm her worth. Her voice may not be the loudest in the room, but it carries power because it is backed by self-respect. Another example is in relationships. A nice girl might keep forgiving the same hurtful behavior, telling herself that patience is love. But love without boundaries is not love. It is tolerance of pain. The wise girl forgives once, maybe twice, but she also sets limits. She communicates clearly, I value this relationship, but I cannot allow this behavior. If the pattern continues, she has the courage to walk away, not because she is cruel, but because she honors herself. That is wisdom. And true love, when it exists, will always respect wisdom more than blind niceness. Wisdom also teaches balance in giving. The nice girl gives endlessly, her time, her energy, her care, even when her own cup is empty. The wise girl understands the law of nature. You cannot pour from an empty cup. She gives generously, but she also refills herself. She rests, she heals, she grows.